Hello and welcome to Juicy Scoop. We're going to go through some hot topics, some Real Housewives news, and then I've got Dr. Drew. He is here. He's going to answer all the questions about Teen Mom. What he thinks of some celebrity couples, what he thinks of some celebrities who might be suffering with some type of mental illness. We get through it all. Just know that you might be triggered by opinions that are not yours. Okay, here we go. Juicy Scoop. Great news. The doomsday cult horrible couple, Lori Vallow, worst mother on earth, and Chad Daybell have finally both been indicted on murder charges for Lori's two children, her daughter and her son. Her son actually was adopted. And then who knows what they're going to get into about the suspicious murder that happened to her former husband who died, and Chad, who killed the children with her. He, of course, his wife mysteriously died a month before he married Lori. Both the children were found on the property of Chad Daybell. Lori's brother, who had to shoot her husband before the children died, he, of course, mysteriously died as well. So, but at least they are indicted on murder charges, and that is great news. So, of course, we'll be following the story. It's the craziest story ever. If you're not familiar, look it up. And I mean, there's been a lot written on it, but it's still just absolutely one of the worst things you've ever heard. They thought the children were zombies. They were in a cult that they thought the world was going to end on, I think it was July 11th. A lot of people chose to eat their face off on July 10th. And then we're, like, oh, I guess we're still here and now I'm fat. The world didn't end, though it was looking that way in July. It did not. And very sadly, 2 innocent lives were taken. Okay. Also, not great news. Josh Duggard's wife, Josh Duggar of the Duggar family, has, as you know, been arrested for they didn't know what he was arrested for at first. I put on Instagram story right away. I know that's possession of children porn. It was, meaning children porn images and maybe videos were on his computer, and he's being accused of possessing them, receiving it, and maybe even sending them out to other pedophile friends like they do. But Anna says, I believe he is innocent. This is the same wife who's had 6 of his children. He has also been accused in the past of sexually assaulting a stripper that he met. He was also found to be on Ashley Madison a few years ago. She forgave him for that. It also came out, and his sisters confirmed that he, in fact, molested them when they were growing up and all living under one roof. They have let him out on bail, and he cannot live with his children or be around any minors, but Anna can bring the kids to him, providing it's not in the home, and they can, like, I don't know, hang out. It's very disturbing, but she is sticking by him. Let's get into the Real Housewives of New York. They're all at Ramona's. Ramona and Sonia made up, even though Sonia screamed at her because Ramona mentioned that the rates for a Wells Fargo loan might be better than Morgan Stanley. And she goes, Wells Fargo's not my family. And she pushed Ramona, and Ramona was, and then the next day, Sonia and her are in bed drinking coffee, and Sonia's like, so what happened? She goes, well, I just mentioned to Ebony, who's looking for a mortgage loan, that the rates at Wells Fargo are better. And why would you do that, Ramona? That's not going to put food on the table for my daughter. And Ramona's like, I really don't think that your daughter's going to starve if Ebony, for her condo, goes with a loan that's not from Morgan Stanley. I mean, it's like, it's like they don't pay any of your bills, okay? So, maybe move on. Like, who cares? Anyway, it was a great commercial for Wells Fargo. So they go out and she's setting up her table now. Ramona's going to have a party and the theme is breakfast at Tiffany's. By the way, I think that's a really fun theme. I think it's something I might want to do. Who doesn't look flattering in an updo a lot of jewels, and like a little black sheath of a dress. Here we have Luann looking so beautiful. I'm looking at her Instagram here. And anyway, so they're talking, and Luann's like, well, what happened? I mean, it was just absolutely crazy how she was acting last night. And Ramona said, I talked to her, and I think she kind of gets it. I think she's not in a great place. And just then, Leah walks in, and Ramona goes, do you mind, Leah? Like, I'm having a private conversation. And she's like, fuck you. You're a fucking bitch, Ramona. Ramona's like, what? I'm just trying to have a beautiful, lovely dinner for my girlfriends with a breakfast at Tiffany's theme, but it's actually for dinner. So Leah goes up to Ebony, and she's like, she's just a fucking bitch. You know what? I'm going to take a vow of silence for the day, and you're going to be speaking for me. And I'm just not going to talk today. And it's like, who is this girl, Leah? Like, I think she's really showing her assholeness. I'm sorry. Between the Michael Che situation, who's the head of SNL, that she tried to get to date her and then blasted him on her podcast that he was rude, and then he shared the text messages in which he wasn't rude at all and she was just quite strange, to now just now you're just not going to speak. I thought it had something to do with that she was becoming a Jew, but it was just that she wanted to piss off Ramona, like she's the bratty teenager, and Ramona has to put up with it. Anyway, they have the dinner, and Heather Thompson shows up. Holla! Yummy tummy Heather Thompson shows up. Well, Heather Thompson has a podcast, and Leah is well aware of a episode that she had with Carol Radswell where they talked about the night at the Pirate, and Heather reveals that Lou offered her a joint, and then heavier drugs came out. So that comes at the table, and Lou was like, what are you talking about? Why would you say? I thought we were friends. I guess now I'm doing heavy drugs. I'm a cabaret singer. I don't do drugs. So Heather's like, yeah, I guess I said that. And Leah's just going for it. She's pissed. And then she's like, who doesn't have a podcast? Ebony started one. Heather has one. Heather Thompson has one. Then Leah goes, well, I had one for 5 years, but I just stopped doing it. Basically, once she got on the show, she just was like, oh my God, it's so much easier to make money as a reality star than do a podcast every week. But anyway, I don't know. I checked, and I was like, what is going on here? And then I noticed that Bravo Superfans posted there's new casting for Real Housewives of New York City. So if you live in New York City and you want to go to Ramona's house next fall, I'd say you sign up now. Then Leah and Carol got into it last night after the episode aired, because of course Carol was the guest on Heather Thompson's show, and Carol, I guessed, blocked Leah. And she said, so she shows that she's blocked Leah, and Leah posts, this is so weird. I've never uttered a word about her ever, but I do have a question for her. How is the sex child trafficking bestie, Ghislaine, and I think she misspelled it too, I always mispronounce it, doing? Well, I do know how she's doing. She's still in the prison, and she's not happy, and she'd like to get out, and she's awaiting trial. And Giselle's still in, or Galene, that's it. Galene is still behind bars. Oh, that was another thing about mispronunciations, which is my thing, and Ramona's. When Ramona came out and Leah was like hand signaling and not talking, she goes, do you have laryngitis? Do you have laryngitis? That way you can't talk. She means laryngitis. But, she was like concerned. After 3 hours, though, Leah just decided, no, I got to talk because I want to bury Heather Thompson, who's coming over tonight. So that's how that episode ended. It was fun. And then I happened to follow Leah's sister, who occasionally gets featured on the show. And this photo of her, she's now an influencer for a fashion house. And she's wearing like a knit long sleeve top. It's a crop top, but the crop comes mid nipple, not over your boobs, not mid waist, not just showing your belly. It is a top that is cropped mid nipple. Okay. And she's showing it off. And I just want to say, please Can she not be a new Real Housewife next season? I'm asking. I'm putting it on my anti-vision board of what I don't want, and it's her as one of the housewives. Larsa Pippen, you guys, former best friend of Kim K, former wife of the Pippen basketball star. I can't think of his name. Anyway, mother of 4. She has signed on to return. She was one of the original Real Housewives of Miami with Leah Black. I don't know if Leah's coming back or what, but according to Radar Online, she's already signed a contract to return if, I guess, Real Housewives of Miami is returning. She had a lot of drama this week. She started dating this guy who is a basketball player, and he's young. And they were seen together, and that guy had a baby with another girl. I don't know if they were married, but they were like living as a couple. That girl, was pissed that Larsa, who's 46, was with a 24-year-old baby daddy. And she believed the baby daddy was then ignoring them and their child. She wrote a long post blasting Larsa Pippen. You're old, you're thirsty, get some more fillers, you call the paparazzi. Why don't you spend some time with your 4 kids instead of chasing 24-year-old guys? Thank God that, now that you guys have broken up, I will say that the baby daddy who was dating Larsa has reached out and apologized and is getting involved in our child's life again. But you're pathetic. She puts that out on blast on Instagram. Larsa Pippen then writes back, no, you're the loser because at least my baby daddy, I was married to him and he's always been a great father. I wouldn't want to be with your man because he isn't a great father. So I actually dumped him. Meanwhile, everybody, I'm joining OnlyFans. That's right, girls. Do you wonder how someone as beautiful as I am that has so many guys chasing me that still can't find the right one, but at least I get them to chase me? Would you like to know my tips? Join my OnlyFans. Then she did another post that was like for guys, and hey, you'll get to see my bikini photos and the real me, and I get to talk about it. And then this news. So there you go. Moving over to the Kardashians, apparently Kim K did not pass the baby bar. She said she studied 10 to 12 hours a day away from her children. And I guess it's in an upcoming episode that we saw a preview for. She did not pass. That doesn't mean she's kicked out of her private tutoring law school situation. But it's not great news for her. And prediction, I don't think she's going to pursue the law degree anymore. That's my prediction. I think this is kind of like run its course. And I think she's realizing how incredibly hard it is. The program that she's doing takes several years. I thought it was like an accelerated thing. That's not what I read yesterday, but maybe I'm wrong. And I think she's really thinking about the fact that she's now single. She has 4 kids. Maybe she'd like to date and have some fun. And it's hard studying for the bar and wearing like dental floss bikinis and taking photos at the same time. She's finally able to wear color. Skims is now having a neon color line. And, and she doesn't have to deal with Kanye, who, by the way, is wearing these shoes. I see these funny things, and unless you're tagged on it, I don't know what the deal is. So whoever came up with this, but they wrote, when the insides of your rollerblades come out. It's like this weird sock shoe he's wearing. I mean, I think the emperor has no clothes. I think we're realizing that now when it comes to Kanye, yet this stuff still sells a lot. I think his clothing sales will go down without the daily support and coolness of him being officially part of the Kardashian family. That's, again, one of my predictions. Let's see. So Kelly Osbourne has lost a lot of weight and she looks beautiful, but she got very angry recently and did an Instagram post. And she said something, and I'm going to do my best Kelly Osbourne accent. A lot of you are saying that I've had plastic surgery. I have not had plastic surgery. I've only had some filler in my lip, my eyebrows, my cheeks, and my jaw. So no, I have not, and Botox. So no, and a little bit of filler on the sides of my head. So no, I have not had plastic surgery. This is my face. So Bravo by Cocktails did put two faces next to each other. And she was beautiful before. She's beautiful now. This photo, of course, you know, she's grown up. She's matured. Your face changes. She's lost weight. Who cares is the point. But I don't really like it when people think they're above someone who actually like had their nose broken for a nose job. I'm sorry. I think if you get a nose job and if you get Botox, you're both getting plastic surgery. I've had Botox, okay? I've had a touch of filler here and there. Yeah, and you know what? I went to a plastic surgeon for it. But whether you go to a Medi-Spot or plastic, who cares? We're all getting it. And if you want to be all honest about your stuff, great. And if you want to be more discreet about it, that's fine too. All right. Angelina Jolie, apparently the sources are saying this from People magazine, they have granted more custodial time with Brad Pitt with the 4 younger kids. Maddox is now over 18. He's no longer part of the case. And I don't know that relationship will ever be right, because you remember that is what really started the fight that then ended for her to file for divorce and wage a custody battle against Brad. Is that the story is that they were on a private jet and he was drinking and he and Maddox got into it. So Maddox is no longer part of it, but he did get awarded more custody, and it is in a sealed decision. And he tentatively awarded Pitt more custody with their 5 kids. Pax is 17, Zahara is 16, Shiloh's 14, Knox and Vivian, the twins, turn 13 soon. And he said he's always wanted more time with the kids. However, she is not happy about it. This is interesting. This comes out from Perez Hilton. Rita Ora, the singer, who is an out bisexual, and Tessa Thompson, who I believe is, I don't really know who she is. I guess she's an actress. Anyway, they're in, supposedly, according to the Daily Mail and Perez, in a throuple together with director Taika Waititi, who's a big Oscar-winning director of Jojo Rabbit and What We Do in the Shadows. They've been seen like together, like holding hands all together, and the girls have been seen kissing. And then there was a post where she's kissing the girl, Rita is, and it's something like, these are the ones I love. So that is kind of exciting news, you guys. If this is true, this would be the first Hollywood throuple that's like famous already that's choosing to be in a throuple together. And I actually get into throuples and threesomes with Dr. Drew, in a minute and get his opinions. Last thing we're going to talk about is Real Housewives of New Jersey, the reunion. Now it's concluded, and Jennifer really came coming for everybody, especially Margaret and Melissa. And I thought it was very interesting because this whole season, Margaret was really honest about how when she was in her 20s working in the fashion industry, she was on my show, her book is great, how she had, her boss came onto her and she, in her words, had sex with him. It was not a physically abusive sexual situation, but obviously it was not right. It was her boss. She felt she had no choice. This is how things were done. It was a lot of time ago. And, it was weird because Jennifer was really always going after her. She wasn't sympathetic to it. She didn't seem to understand what it's like to be a woman in a job that you love, and then you find yourself in this uncomfortable situation with someone who you know and work with every day, and they're making a pass at you. So I think it's very strange. And then there were little moments where, like, Jackie's like, he said, Annie goes to Jackie, have you ever had a sexual harassment situation at work? She said, yes. When I was a lawyer, I would have other male lawyers sometimes rub my shoulders and, touch me when I didn't want to be touched, but I didn't say anything because I loved my job. And Teresa, who does not get along with Jackie, was like, well, that would never happen to me. Well, I'm like, first of all, I don't think you've ever had a job in an office before ever in your life, or a career that you work so hard for that you're finally in a job you love. And you're like, let me just get through this uncomfortable moment of someone rubbing my shoulders. I have been in it. And she goes, well, that just would never happen. I never have anybody touch me that I didn't want to touch me. And it was like, well, what are you saying about people? This is why people don't come forward with their stories of, being victims, because people like you victim shame. And I just think it's very interesting. And I wonder, and then Jackie said, you have rumors in your past too, Jennifer. And I wonder what was left out of this reunion, because I think there might have been something. And it'll be interesting to see why Jennifer is so unsympathetic and cannot relate to a victim of, sexual assault claims. But anyway, they are a fun group because of the guys. The guys really like each other. I think the cast will all be returning. Teresa finally made it up with Jackie at the end by saying, oh, Evan likes to golf. You know what? My Louie likes to golf. Louie comes out, gives her a pineapple, and they all drink pineapple. And I know we're sick of the pineapple talk. She likes the pineapple because it makes her vagina taste good. Other people like pineapple because it's a delicious fruit, and other people are swingers. Anyway, that's kind of interesting with the pineapple too, because Andy brought up all these stories that have come out in the Post and on different sources that Louis has run a sex group or a sex building or something where people have swinger parties. That's been out there. He has 2 ex-fiancés who said that he treated them very badly and slashed their tires and was very narcissistic to them. However, they seem very in love. She spoke highly of his wife who bore his 2 children, and that's always good when you get along with the woman who's actually the mother of the kids. He seems nice. Everyone says he actually has money. Some people are concerned that Dolores' son, Frankie Jr., is working for them because of these rumors. They think there might be something, but nothing has been proven. And maybe they're just 2 tan narcissists who like to bone 3 to 4 times a day. And it really might work out. It might all work out. We might see a wedding next season. That's my prediction. This was interesting. Also, Jennifer was on a show called New Money, and a clip came out from someone. Who was it? Let me see. Let me give it credit. It was the Business of Bravo. Instagram found the clip, and it is her, one of these dumb shows where she's just like, now that my jewelry business with my family is doing so well, I never even look at prices. I'll take that. I'll take that. I'll take 3 of those. I don't even know how much a carton of eggs costs. And so it was some dumb show that didn't make it, or it was on. It was short-lived, so it was actually on. This is not new, though, you guys. 90% of the people that are reality stars on the Housewives, probably 75, 90%, have been on some aspect of reality TV before. It's been TLC, Say Yes to the Dress, or they've had their own pilots. Even Margaret had, if you read in her book, she was approached to have her own reality show a couple times prior to being on the show. And then certain casting directors then know about you from that, or that project that didn't make it, then they come back to you later. So it's not weird that, especially a housewife, has been on some reality show. Like, other than, Sutton's probably the only person on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills that really had no foot in any kind of reality TV before being asked to be on Beverly Hills. But it is kind of fun just to, dig up this stuff. Okay, you guys, now I'm very excited to bring on my good friend, Dr. Drew. It's really juicy, really informative, and of course, always funny. Hello, and welcome to Juicy Scoop. I've got Dr. Drew here, and we're going to get into your juicy questions, but we're also going to ask his opinion on some of the juiciest topics about celebrities. Drew and I have been friends for a long time. Welcome to the Juicy Scoop studio, the new studio. First time you come.
It's wonderful. First time I've been to this studio, and I've never felt juicier.
Okay, good. I'm very excited that you're here.
Yeah.
Now, you were just telling me, it sounds like an exhausting thing that you just did. You were in New York for the Teen Mom Reunion?
Correct.
Okay.
And they just scheduled it all of a sudden right before this wedding that we had to go to in Santa Ynez up above Santa Barbara.
Okay.
And my wife thought it was a great idea to support local businesses in Anaheim, so she got a multi-pass, for the whole family. We're going to just be like the old days. We're all going to go to Disneyland.
With the triplets.
With the triplets.
So we're now
28, and their significant others. Problem being, I got to get from New York to Orange County and meet them all at midday, and then drive to Santa Ynez that night. It was awesome.
For those of you that don't know, Dr. Drew has triplets, 2 boys and a girl.
Yeah.
And so I've been there. I've done that, like, come, I remember.
For your family,
for
right?
My
Because you're like on the road.
I've been on the road.
You got stuck in Denver at one point where you were trying to get back from your family, right?
Yes, many times.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and I've like gotten, I remember there was some Cinderella like premiere or something, and I was going to take Mackenzie,
and
I came. Though. No, I was taking Mackenzie.
Oh, your daughter, yes.
And and she was like 14 or whatever.
Got it.
And I was like, that's all right. I flew from Boston. I got dressed in the bathroom, and I took her, and she was like kind of a sourpuss. And I was like, oh my God, do you not you don't realize, because you're 14 and it's not your job to realize the hell that it took me to be here. Can you not be a sourpuss?
Impossible. And my kids had lots of questions this time. This is the first time we'd all gone as adults, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, does this remind you of old times? Like, no, does not remind us. Back then, they're between ages of 2 and 8 or something.
Yeah.
No matter how you planned it, Disneyland is so stimulating and the days are so tiring and so long that you could have given them the most ideal childhood experience of their life. But by about dinner time, they're all crying. They're all freaking out. They all are inconsolable, right? And there's nothing you can do about it. We're like, we just gave you the best day of your life. It's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And and funny, they had an interesting experience of it when we were talking about it. We were all laughing and they sort of admitted, we just wanted more. Just more. It's just too stimulating. It's too much. Yeah, humans weren't meant for this.
I mean, and then, so at Disneyland, how is it working right now? Is it less people because you make a reservation?
That's one of the reasons we went was they're only 25% capacity, and yet the average wait was still an hour.
Oh, it was still an hour.
Even we waited.
How is that?
I don't know. I couldn't figure that out. And we waited a half hour even when we had our fast passes.
And then
which are all
do you have to wear a mask as you're walking around?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Which is very annoying.
So was the wedding nice at least?
Yes, it was a lovely wedding. Another time in Santa Ynez. I've never been up there. I love
I love that area.
And stuff, so we were in Los Olivos.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
So you were, how long have you been doing Teen Mom Reunion? Because let's do some Teen Mom questions.
11 years.
And how did that come about?
It was 19, was it in 20, whatever, 11 years ago, 2009, something like that, 2008. And it was at the tail end of Celebrity Rehab. Mm-hmm. I had been on MTV sort of continuously between... Right,
because you had the Love Line nighttime show.
And I did this thing called Sex with Mom and Dad that was on MTV. And I did a bunch of MTV shows. And so I was sort of in the pool there. And they called me and they described the show. I was 16 and pregnant at the time. And I said, that is going to have an impact on teen pregnancy. I know it. What do you want me to do? And they went, well, they tried to describe these reunions, and I was going to sit and just interview them about their lives. And I thought, great, let's do it. Let's go do it.
And how do you feel as the last 11 years? What do you think the impact has been?
Well, not only did the quarter that Teen Mom started airing was the quarter teen pregnancy started dropping in the United States, and now it's at the lowest level it's been since the 1940s. And they've done 2 academic studies where they've gone into communities and proven that the higher the viewership, the lower the teen pregnancy. So 2 studies have proven it. Wow. So it's clearly, it's the same as Loveline. You can't put somebody like me in a box and go, kids, don't do that. You give them a narrative, you give them a relatable character, you give some humor, you get them invested in those characters, and you show the consequences of their choices. They get that. And then I can come in and kind of explain things. That's all Loveline was. Every call was a case, somebody they could relate to. I mean, the reason I started doing Loveline was one Anthony Fauci in 1983 was urging us younger physicians to get out there and educate about this thing we had just stopped calling grids. We were starting to call AIDS, and nobody was talking to young people about it. It was weird. That's how I got involved with it.
And so with the teen moms, now do you watch the whole season or do they give you a package? No,
they give me a package and I watch it. I watch the whole season. I watch.
Oh, you do watch the whole season.
Yeah.
And do you come up with the questions or do they give it?
Both. Well, both. I come up with things I want to get into with them, but they we have cards and the stuff we need to get to.
And do you have a favorite? They ask that.
Do I have a favorite?
They feel some of the Juicy Scoopers feel like you're too like you were too lenient on Amber.
Yeah.
Even though she did physically hit Gary, her baby daddy.
So to answer your question, Chelsea's the easiest.
Okay.
And she has now left the program. Caitlin, who was the one that gave the child up for adoption early on, she and Tyler were always kind of special to me, and they stay in close touch with me. They call me for all kinds. Well, Caitlin does anyway. Calls me for all kinds of stuff, and they all can call me what Caitlin does.
And they're still together.
They're still together and having another child.
Did they get married?
They got married.
And they have 2 kids that they are raising.
And I think they're having another one.
And then their child that they gave up. This was interesting, and I ended up seeing a little bit of it. So their child that they gave up when they were 16, they were the first season.
Yeah.
That child, they had a deal where they could see her, right?
Open adoption.
Like once a year, or a couple times a year.
Yeah.
But my understanding is, now that she's older and the parents never thought about the fact that this show would be on 15 years later.
None of us ever imagined. Yeah.
And so what is that whole story and what's happening?
I don't know. I'm going to meet with them probably in the fall, but
Okay.
I think they're sort of closing down access because they don't want the cameras and they don't want to be part of the story.
Because now the girl's like what, like 12 or
yeah,
something?
and she could be, she could watch all this. You know what I mean?
Right.
And see, it's a decision to involve your family in a show like this.
And it is hard for the parents that chose to adopt her.
Oh yeah.
Because
they've been lovely, by the way. They've been lovely.
And they said that they were like, we respect these parents, and now our preteen daughter who was raised by these parents. Like I've thought that too about them when I've seen them on other shows and things. They really have. It's just kind of really amazing.
It's amazing.
And if
amazing.
They didn't have the show, they would not be as successful and have this family. Like they wouldn't have had the things they have.
So that's the general note we got to start when we talk about it. Why don't you fill in the blank? One of the things is here. Why do they fire that one? Fire. They're all into the teen mom fams are into canceling.
Yeah.
You're talking about eliminating at-risk youth's only source of income. Mm-hmm. Can I use the F word here?
Yeah.
Are you fucking kidding me? You want to cut them off from their ability to support their children? Think about that, assholes. You want them to be cut off. They've chosen, they're adults now, to participate in this thing where they make a living, and you want to take that away from them. That's horrible. You should be ashamed of yourself. It's disgusting. So that's number one.
Do you feel the same way about 40-year-old women who want to get Real Housewives fired for doing illegal activities to raise money or whatever? We've had many.
No, I don't have to worry about anybody doing illegal activities in the cohort I work with.
No,
so that would put it in a different light.
Do you feel that it's just as bad when fans say, "Can we get rid of this woman or not?"
I would say not.
Because they're not. They can make another living.
The conceit is they're already wealthy.
Right.
That's the conceit of the housewife.
Okay.
These are poor, at-risk youth from all over the country. Give me a break. And let's be clear, teen pregnancy is a marker. It's a symptom of mental health issues. So they all have a spectrum of mental health issues, and they're all starting
You're saying a symptom, you mean you're more likely to find yourself pregnant as a teenager if you have a mental
correct.
Not
it's
perfect or whatever.
It's like drug use and other things. It's a symptom of adolescents don't complain of depression and crying, and they get involved in truancy and sexual activity and drugs. That's how they act out their mental health problems. Mm-hmm. And teen pregnancy is one of those. And now they're all starting to talk about it. Now that they're adults, they're starting to reflect back and go, oh, like Leah just this last weekend during our reunion was really talking very vividly about why she got pregnant and what was going on in her life.
What was she saying?
Essentially that she felt deeply abandoned and emotionally out of control, and she was craving some sort of closeness and contact, and boom, there it goes. Because the whole season we're going, you know what a condom is, why didn't you use it? And they're like, I don't know. it's because they wanted to be loved. They wanted to have this closeness, and that's what happens. That's what happens to people that are desperate for that stuff. But because it's a marker for mental health issues, there's going to be a spectrum of mental health problems there, right? Amber has a lot of mental health issues. I love Amber, but she has these are serious mental illness.
Right.
She has a team that she works with and has worked with for years, much like many of the other ones that these rabid fans complain about. They not only do they have teams of mental health professionals, their children often have teams of mental health professional. All of them. MTV has gone to great lengths to get people the services and the resources they need to. They don't force them to. It's up to them to choose. We're going to talk about homelessness. You can't force people into treatment. That's why we have homelessness, right? Mm-hmm. But they offer these things, and a lot of them took advantage of that. And there's such a weird world in television where Dr. Phil, God bless him, who does great television. That's not medicine. He's not a physician. He's not a medical doctor. He has a different, and he's not licensed currently. I am licensed. I'm a physician. I have a different set of ethical parameters I can work with. I can't go, don't you know that heroin is killing your family? I can't do that.
Right.
I can't do it. Not only that, I've worked with drug addicts for 30 years. They know what the problem is.
Right.
They want to stop. They can't. That's the problem. So these people that want me to somehow attack a brittle mental health patient as though that's going to straighten her out, give me a break. She's a complicated case with lots of significant issues. This call her out notion is false. It is a flawed idea. It's not something that helps anybody. Somehow somebody she's been in treatment for like 15 years now, 10 years. And somebody,
talking about Amber.
She was in prison for drug addiction.
Right.
She's had consequences. She knows.
Now, because what I recall is she had a choice of rehab or prison, didn't she?
No, she was in front of the judge. And she told me that she went into the bathroom and started cutting up and sucking down fentanyl patches and went out to the courtroom and said, I'm going to die if you don't put me in prison. Judge, please put me in prison. She was right.
Oh.
She was right. And she did beautifully. Oh, my God. She did great in prison. She became a peer counselor. She knows what's up. But she knows. And so this idea of, don't you know that why do you do that's going to harm a person who is, why would I harm somebody who's got significant issues and, by the way, is doing everything they can to treat their underlying problem?
Yeah.
It's not like she's ignoring it. And even if that were the case and I was trying to urge somebody into treatment, the way people imagine it on television is not the way you do it. It's not the Dr. Phil world. Dr. Phil does great television. He's not doing mental health services. He's not.
And how do you feel about Farrah? Because she's been off the show for a while.
Farrah, I miss Farrah. I actually do. Susan was kind of friendly with Farrah. They were strangely.
Your wife.
Yes, she got to be friendly with a lot of them.
She came on my show.
Farrah.
And right away I was like, tell me what I can't ask you, because I've saw her get mad at other interviewers and other shows. And she was like, nothing. I mean, and I said this, she was on time.
Oh, yeah, she knows
Couldn't
how to
have
work.
been nicer. Promoted the shit out of the episode.
She's very professional.
Writes me back.
Yep.
Like, hooked me up with some jewelry line. And was like, no, you should have your own jewelry. I mean, I didn't do it. But, she was, really.
She's awesome.
Yeah. And I know people just are like, and I think she knows that, why she just stands out more than others. But she's the only one that has only had one kid, too.
It's true.
So, I mean, if you're really looking at, who kind of had their child and lived their life to then, not repeat this pattern, it's kind of her.
But there's this little porn thing she did. There's that.
Oh, right,
There's her porn deal.
And made a mold of her asshole and marketed it.
Who hasn't?
I know. Did she make a perfume? I was just thinking about the other day. I go, remember when every celebrity had a perfume?
Yes.
Is perfume now the new podcast? Or is podcast the new perfume?
Or is it the new asshole mold?
Yeah, or the new asshole mold. Yeah, every celebrity has a podcast, just like 10 years ago, everyone had a perfume. Go on.
Oh, my God.
And then after a while, you get it, and you stop wearing it.
Right,
so
of course.
On.
So make no mistake, at times Farrah was horrible to me, awful. I mean, she would come out and do some of the wildest stuff, because she was angry.
Yeah.
And I'm used to that from patients. It's a very common sort of thing that happens when you're working with somebody. And so I just go, okay, let's.
Right.
And I noticed she started a little bit of that in my last interview with her, where she'll just stonewall. Ask me anything you want. Yes. No. and just really being as obstreperous as possible. But I told her, and I honestly meant it. I said, Farrah, I will miss you. I don't know about everybody else, but I will miss you. We've spent a lot of time together. I was there. When they were 16, 17, 18, it was a very scary time for me. I felt we had to really protect them and nurture them.
Yeah.
Even there was a lot of stuff going on. And you had the same nonsense with the mobs saying that we should be attacking them on the air and setting them straight and confronting, all these kinds of words that mean nothing in the mental health world.
Right.
So that was a really scary time, particularly Amber, by the way, because there was domestic violence. She was drug addicted. She could have died through all that really easily. And so that was a tough. Once they became adults, it got a lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now the show is just the OGs. You don't have
No,
new
we have
people.
Teen Mom 2.
Okay, so you have Teen Mom 2, and then
some
you're
of the young and
OGs.
pregnant girls have come into the Teen Mom 2 group.
Oh, okay.
There's young and pregnant.
So-
It's a new.
So, okay, there's young.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you also think that, when I grew up, we had after school specials. And an after school special changed my life.
Which one?
And I don't feel like there's enough, and I've said this on the show before, I don't feel like there's enough of those type of shows. Or I would there was one about drugs, about Helen Hunt. Took some angel dust and she jumped out of the science window of her high school, and then she got up and she started scratching herself with, I was so scared of any kind of drugs like that, And then there was also sad ones about girls getting pregnant, and they were out on living in some sad apartment with their boyfriend, and the parents cut them off. And my parents always told me, like, you're out on the street if you do that. So there was like a sense of fear that kept many people in my generation on the straight and narrow. And then I feel like with teen pregnancy stuff, the way it should be, do you think sometimes girls, because they know that their parent wouldn't put them out on the street, that they would help, that the 50-year-old mom who's a nurse is going to help raise that child, and they're not going to be kicked out, and they're still going to have money to get their nails done, and it's like, okay, it's just it's so different than the way I was raised.
It is back to the millennial, what we did with millennials. We gratified them for everything. They were winners in everything. And I always told parents, if your kid is in trouble and he's doing illicit things, have him arrested and tell them you're going to get them arrested. Be very clear. I'm going to have you arrested. And guess what? They'll stop.
Yeah.
They'll stop. But you better mean it. You better mean it, because if you have to do it, you just do it.
Speaking of that, like tough love, now with the Paris Hilton documentary, another whole thing has come out, and the girl from Catch Me Outside, speaking of Catch Me Outside, girl, you know what I'm talking about?
No. Oh, yes.
From Dr. Phil.
Yes.
She has also said that Dr. Phil recommended that she go to one of these places in Utah where they kidnap you in the middle of the night and you do hard labor and there's stories of physical abuse and sexual abuse, but even the kids that didn't have any of that, it sounds like a lot of mind, screwing. You have to sit in a room for 3 hours, all night long, all these awful stories. And so I put out there, I go, there's got to be some success story.
Yes.
There's got to be somebody that was like, I
Otherwise,
was on the bad track, and otherwise people wouldn't keep recommending.
Correct.
But only one person wrote me.
Well, they
said that it was a success for them.
I've seen many successes. It depends on the program. You have to be very careful with these things, and they have to have, you have to have people know what they're doing running them. You have to be.
But how do you feel about it? I mean, when I do think about it, as awful as your kid is being, to be kidnapped in the middle of the night and really think you're being kidnapped, not thinking like, no, hey, you're going because you've been a little shit.
It depends on the situation. I worked with a team that extracted kids from gay and crack houses. And I would argue that's what you got to do. Yeah. Because that child's going to die.
Right.
So it depends on what your situation
But if you're just
is.
like a little
here's
shit
the biggest
that's
problem.
dating an older guy and doing some drugs and going to nightclubs.
Yes.
And then in the middle of the night, you wake up and you're literally being kidnapped.
Well, here's
and
the
you
problem.
can't talk to your parents for 3 months and you're in the woods in Utah. That's
Here's where
scary.
it really becomes a problem.
Yeah.
If the reason the kid is acting out because the parents weren't available during childhood and they had abandoned the child and now you abandon them again by sticking them in the program, that's where you get into real trouble.
Right.
That's how it goes bad. And guess what? The kids that are acting out often were the ones that had, parents that did their best but were not available where the kid needed it.
Right.
This is a topic we were going to talk about, which I'm a little disturbed by, this idea that we can replace psychiatric care with all kinds of other things, outward bound, wraparound services, social services. Psychiatric illness exists. It's common, and you must have a physician to evaluate that, to assess what it is and what needs to be done.
Yeah.
And we look at what's going on across the street here.
Right.
All those people need a psychiatrist. No, not permanently.
We have a homeless encampment across the street.
And maybe not placement or anything, but they need psychiatric care. Am I understating it?
No.
Or overstating
so I
it?
mean, we'll talk a little bit about it, but it's like, yes, I think it's a weird place we are in California and in LA because, if you voice that you're upset about it, it's like, oh, you're insensitive.
You don't care, yeah.
But I do care.
Here's why I care.
I don't think that mentally ill people should be living on sidewalks, shitting on the sidewalk.
They shouldn't be left to die on the streets.
Exactly.
They are dying at 5 a day in LA County alone, and there's not one physician overseeing the allocation of resources for the conditions that are killing 5 a day. If you had a hospital ward where 5 people were dying a day, and it's like, I'm sorry, no doctors here, same thing.
And the way I understand it is the reason, because people are like, okay, I was, why wasn't, we didn't see this, on sidewalks of busy streets in the Valley in Los Angeles 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Why is it? Why is it that now you can put a tent anywhere that's a sidewalk and just live there?
Well, first of all, there's new people developing serious mental illness every day, right? It's a growing pool. It's 1% of the population for the most serious, probably 10% if you include drug addiction. So that's a growing population every day who are not getting treatment, none of them. You've also made drug use, drug trafficking, and stealing to support your habit legal in California. So my patients are coming to California. That's what my patients will do. I know drug addicts. They're coming here. So we have all the addicts from all over the country coming here.
So we would have to change the law.
We'd have to change the laws. I am not interested in criminalizing homeless or drug addicts. It's all the result of decisions made in the early 1960s that dismantled the state's mental health services.
Right.
And as a result, the mentally ill ended up in the prisons, the nursing homes, and the streets. We don't put them in the nursing homes or the prisons anymore, so they're all in the streets. No other country on earth does that. No other country. What's wrong with us? Sick people are taken care of in other countries. Brain diseases. These are all brain disorders. But here, people living their best life, whatever they want to do, man.
But I'm right. So, but in those other countries, someone is not taking a shower because at least in a prison, the way I understand it, it's shower day.
Regimented.
You have to take a shower. So now you're on the street. You haven't taken a shower, in months, which is very unhealthy for you and very scary and could add to diseases. And you're like, but I just want to live on this tent.
Yeah.
And so then in California, they can't say
anything.
They can't say, but you have to go to this facility. So in another country, they would say, you can't live in this tent, and we are going to put you in this facility, and we're going to stay. You can't leave this facility until we evaluate that you could live somewhere else in a group home or whatever, and that you take a shower and you would eat a meal
you have a plan,
and not hurt yourself.
You get your psychiatric issues stabilized. You do some vocational rehab.
So we have to change the laws so that they are forced to get help. Truly,
we have to change the Prop 47, Prop 57, AB 109 that allow drug use and stealing to support drug use. We have to change it. We have to say you can't do that. You come over here. Just come over here. And even if they allow continued drug use, as long as you have personnel working on their motivation, you can eventually get them.
And usually. when could we vote on those things again?
I don't know. That's why I've thought about running for governor, because it feels like something somebody's got to do. That's one thing. We have to reestablish the notion of gravely disabled or unable to live safely by oneself.
Right.
If it was a dementia patient who was out on the street and we didn't help him or her, you'd be considered abuse, elder abuse.
Right.
But because we have a different disease that causes exactly the same symptoms, hey man, they're living their best life. Who are you to say? So we need to have gravely disabled. We need to get more psychiatrists. We need to get more residential programs. They can be beautiful. They can be living environments where people learn to live and be part of a community and then work outside of the community, as they slowly transition away. I mean, there's ample sort of models all over the world
so the
how
model,
to do this.
The model of building tiny homes
They're not gonna stay
overlooking
in-
the ocean
They're not
for
gonna stay in them.
$200,000 each.
Yeah.
How do you choose who gets that? And maybe I'd like a tiny home in
Right.
Malibu. I can't afford a tiny home
That's
in
right.
Malibu.
That-
So, like, what do you think of that plan?
I don't care how they develop housing, as long as the housing includes psychiatric services.
It doesn't seem like it is.
It is not at all.
So then what's the point of that?
What's the point?
That tiny house is going to be a hoarder tiny house. It's going, you know what I mean? It's not like they're all of a sudden going to be like, oh, thank you for this clean house. I'm going to get a little job. I'm going to clean my, counter off. And they're not. Because they're not capable of doing
shoot
it.
an arrow across the street, take that person and give them a job and money. What's going to happen?
Nothing.
No,
I mean, they're
they
going
won't-
to end up in the same place.
They can't function. There's
Right.
no way.
Right.
They're not employable in this condition, nor could they manage a living environment.
The other thing
So you'd have to do it for them. So you have to create services, which is great. Otherwise, you're going to continue. I don't care where they're living. They're going to continue to die at 5 a day. And that every year it gets to be one more. It goes through 2 years ago, it was 3 a day. Last year was 4 a day. Now it's 5 a day.
I have a juicy scooper who wrote me, and her son is doing much better now, thank God.
Good.
But he was here in LA. He was sex trafficked, and he was doing drugs. And he was on Hollywood Boulevard doing crack pipe. And according to her, the cop just broke the crack pipe and said bye, threw you away because couldn't arrest him.
Correct.
And didn't want to bother to write up the paperwork, which I
Correct.
don't blame them. They have a lot to do.
And
the
it
cops.
does nothing.
And it does nothing. So like he'd rather stop maybe a shooting or something.
Not rather. If
He
let's
has to.
let's say they write up the paperwork, it's
Yeah.
a misdemeanor. They get a court date.
Right.
And do you think the drug addict shows up for the court? No. They all have piles of them. And the cop just stopped issuing them.
But finally, somebody saved this kid.
Good.
And
They
he's
can all be
doing
saved,
better.
potentially, not
but
all,
I
but-
mean, imagine you're the mom.
Oh, listen,
I
and the
just can't
families have
even-
no rights whatsoever.
Right.
Zero rights. Even there's a bunch of other things need to change too. Our HIPAA laws around psychiatric records need to change, and they need to be managed exactly like a medical record for a medical condition. We have to have something called a directive to physicians, which is when you get a psychiatric diagnosis, just like if I ever came to you, you became my patient, I'd say, hey, by the way, if you get in a situation where you can't breathe, you're on a ventilator and you're unconscious, what do you want me to do? Same thing for psychiatrists, which is, hey, you have this psychiatric condition. You will decompensate someday. That's the way these conditions work. I want to give me permission to put you in the hospital and make you better if that happens. Boom, and then you can do it.
What about
Sorry,
our?
I get upset about this stuff, so I'm way into it.
It's
not so juicy.
No,
it's juicy in a different way.
But it is important because, I know it's like a bummer, but I want people to be aware of what it is. So if it starts to appear in their neighborhood, that they have to be vocal, that they have to talk to their councilman, that they have to call their police officers, let people know, hey, there's something going on in this corner. What can we do?
Plenty of states take care of business.
Yeah.
They get people care. I mean,
Right.
we're talking about Amber. Amber was put into a treatment program in the prison. I went and visited her there.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Amazing. And some states just do what's good for humanity.
Well,
as opposed to what they think is, what's an ideology about what should be good for humanity. Let people live as they wish. Even if they're sick, leave them sick and let them die. That's what we're doing here.
I interviewed this girl, Britney, who was on Love After Lockup, and she got involved with drugs. She was kind of a runaway, had 2 babies out of wedlock, ended up in prison, got out of prison, met her husband in prison, got on the show, and is married with 2 kids. And I follow her on Instagram, and she was bawling tears of joy because she, I guess, requested, because she does have a record, to be able to take the real estate exam in Nevada, and they said yes.
Oh, nice.
Now that is like, I have like chills. Like that is, she said on my interview, if it wasn't for prison.
Yeah. She would still be using her debt.
And I don't think she got, from what I remember, I don't think she was in prison for drug use. She might have been. I think it was like another thing. But by being in prison, she was able to kick it.
What usually gets people sober, what the most common things that get people sober are loss. Loss of a child, loss of your freedom, which is her case, loss of your life, or near loss of your life. That's when people become more workable.
Right.
So loss of freedom is an instrument. It helps people. But I understand, I don't want, again, I don't want to criminalize people that have drug addiction. I think that's a problem.
No, I mean, but yeah, it all.
But there should be an either or. Either you come over here or you go there.
Right.
It's
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, or take some of these. Maybe if there is a prison that's no longer
turn into a hospital.
Turn that
Yeah.
into a medical hospital
Yeah.
with facilities and, more freedom, obviously.
Yep, agreed.
But anyway, I think that's important to talk about because I don't talk about it, and I am concerned. So I wanted to give
thanks.
people. The other thing is the police officer that I talked to just said, also, and I heard this during COVID, and I just want people to know, and hopefully it's different, but people were cleaning out all their closets and their clothes and everything. And the Goodwills couldn't take your stuff because they had enough, but also because of the COVID restrictions. And I was hearing on the radio, hey, take that to the homeless encampment in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And it's like, don't just drop off all your stuff. Now this person that doesn't know how to, what now they're going to do? Organize the jeans you gave them? I mean, like, it just adds to the junk and the filth and everything else. So I was going to say, don't do that. There's other ways to help.
There's other ways to help.
That is not the way to help.
Do talk to homeless people. Do treat them like human beings. Do reach out a helping hand, but don't mince words and don't walk on eggshells.
Yeah.
You'll educate yourself. You'll see what it's like. Go just, hey, how'd you get out here? And they usually blow a lot of smoke. And then just go, you doing drugs? Just ask them, what drugs you doing? They'll tell you. They'll tell you. Do you think that had anything to do with it? Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to ask questions, but do treat them like I got a guy. If you're the one to get the homeless thing, I've got a guy that's now a nurse manager, like the head of a hospital, who was a homeless crack alcoholic on the streets till he was like 35, and now he's a accomplished professional.
Well, the officer I was talking to, he had some success stories like that too, and he's in Target. Not as a cop in Target, and this girl that he had arrested and went to prison and he got her help. I don't know. She was like, officer, she's shopping in Target.
Yeah.
She got her kids back.
Yeah.
Like, but you
Why would I have
also
done-
feel
if-
bad for the there's not that many of those. But
No.
thank God for the people that have a couple of those success stories to keep doing and servicing
Heather,
us.
it's why this whole thing drives me so crazy. I worked in the field with this population for 30 years. Even if you get a 30 or 40% success rate, which we knew how to do, that's like 40,000 people we would help. I mean, it's tens of thousands of people would get better if we just got them care.
Right.
So,
well, I appreciate it. Okay, let's get into some other juicy
all right,
stuff.
it's really juicy
They
stuff.
said you and Adam Carolla are best friends.
Best friends.
But
I didn't know 60-year-old men had best friends.
Aren't you best friends?
We're good friends, but this whole idea that, best friends are like, my last best friend was 6th grade.
It is a little weird to say best friends.
Yes,
okay,
we're
but
very
you're
good friends.
Very, very close.
Very good friends, yes.
Do you ever get mad when he talks down to you? That was a question. Does it
not
ever
anymore.
bother you?
Not anymore.
But at one time it did?
It used to get a little more vicious
Okay.
at times back when we were on radio. And he's not aware of it. He doesn't. He has an infarct there, and has a stroke right there, and now it's getting to be a little more of a bit.
Yeah.
And it is usually, as he will point out, appropriate. There's a reason that I trigger him.
Oh, really? You trigger him. How do you feel about the word trigger?
It's grossly overused.
Yes.
Grossly overused.
Do you think? Yeah. Okay, keep going. Sorry.
I would just say if I were married to Adam, this would bother me greatly, but I'm not married to him.
Well, and I guess she's not going to be married to him much longer either.
I guess not.
Yeah. So, and I asked you this when we were hanging out. I said, because I'm obsessed with how I perceive your marriage to be like close to perfection.
Okay.
You and Susan.
Okay.
And I said, do you think it's hard for someone that does not have the ideal relationship, like an Adam Carolla, who now is getting divorced, to be around you and like have it in your face?
I don't think because Adam has a certain quality about him where I don't think he's aware of it.
He doesn't aware how perfect you guys are.
No. He sees only flaws.
Oh, okay.
So he sees flaws in both of us, and he doesn't see relationships very well.
Oh, okay.
But for his wife, for Lynette, it might have been. I could see where it would bother her.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're with couples and stuff, and you see that one couple is, that much more affectionate, that much sweeter, that person, does things for that, I mean, I've accepted that my sister has a nicer husband than Peter. Michael Goldstein.
How dare you?
But
Wait a
then
minute.
Sharon
I met
will say,
him. I met him and her. Right? Where did I meet them? I know your sister from several places, but
yes.
I met your
Michael Goldstein. Yeah, that's her husband.
Where did I meet him? Where were we?
Oh, I don't know. We've been out. We've been friends for a long time. I can't remember. But
But
no, he's just like, this is my favorite story about Michael Goldstein. Every time I'm around, now they've been married 23 years.
Yeah.
He'll be like, you know what your sister did? She went into court and she wore this little outfit and she got this deal done. And like, it's just like awesome, right?
Yeah. I like that when spouses have professional admiration.
Yes.
And Peter loves what you do.
But he never says it in front of me.
Well, who gives a shit?
So I'll find out later. He brags about you on the golf course. I'm like, well, can I be present when it happens?
Did you invent that phrase? Yeah. Peter invented #1 show. See? How much more praise can there be than that?
Wait, but this is my favorite.
I feel the need to defend Peter.
He said, no, listen, and okay, so there's things. Michael's not perfect at everything.
Yeah.
He's not handy. He doesn't fix things. He doesn't. You're not great at the computer. All things that Peter is fabulous at, and we'll do it. And we'll actually go to Shannon's house, and I'll be like, you still don't have a chandelier. Peter will put up your chandelier.
He's saying I haven't met your brother-in-law. I swear I had.
Only
but
okay.
In any event,
anyway,
but listen.
Wait, this is just the one thing he said. If you don't tell me this is a guy who loves his wife.
Okay.
He said, early on when they were like just dating or married, maybe they're married, he goes, your sister, she makes the best shrimp cocktail. And I go, Michael, that is just the jar of the stuff that she buys. She doesn't make her own sauce. It's that jar. And then she bought shrimp.
Yeah.
I don't even think she squirted like lemon on it. And he is just like,
rapture.
She just cannot do anything wrong.
Yeah.
And I've just accepted it. I'm just like, everybody has a different situation. As long as it's still good, but every marriage has a different dynamic. And, and then there's girls, that let their husbands sleep with other people because they fly around on a private jet and they close their eyes to it. And they're like, well, I still think my life is better than whatever. Not something I would never be able to do it, but everybody has their own thing.
Well, I think men are always suspicious when other men are what's called uxorious.
What does
heard
that
that word?
mean? No.
It's excessively sort of, Peter's like, yes, excessively sort of catering to the wife. Like it's a little excessive. We immediately go, oh, what's he up to? That's immediately what our brain does.
Larry's not up to anything.
I'm just saying. I haven't met him yet, apparently. But I'm just saying, when it's a two uxorious, I was like, what are they doing? What's that guy up to?
I think,
whenever the guys would, before they were married, would put the rose petals out and dinner on the beach and all this kind of craziness. As men, we just go, okay, I don't trust that guy. I do not trust that guy for a second.
I think
and you shouldn't either.
That's what you call love bombing. But with my sister, no, he was a good boyfriend and he's still a great husband.
I'm being facetious.
There's certain couples that remains.
Yeah.
That kind of remains of like, oh, he brings me my coffee every morning.
Yeah. But then again, you're competing.
I just
everything's
think
overdone.
Yes. Yeah. But then it's like after we've spent a weekend with them, then Peter and I will actually joke and pretend to be like them. Love her. But it's great. It's great.
Well, the last time I was on Juicy Scoop was with Susan.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was obsessed with it. Okay, so let's get into let's talk about some celebrities. Britney Spears. Everything that's going on. What is your thought on this? Now, I don't know if you're aware, but a lot of people feel like she posts a lot on her Instagram and they believe that she is not in charge of posting for her Instagram.
Okay.
That it's somebody that's
could be, right?
Right, because she really, as you know, like all the things she can't do. Well, she can't drive a car. She can't shop. She gets a little allowance.
Well, she had life-threatening, serious mental illness, right?
Right.
You don't this of all the hundreds of times that I've recommended family members to get a conservatorship over their child, maybe 1 out of 100 does it. The other 99, the kid's dead. Okay. Mm-hmm. So when you get to the point where you're recommending conservatorship by the parents over a child and you can get it, that is as seriously ill as you can get, because the courts won't give it unless it is really, really serious. So by definition, her mental illness was really a big deal. Now, does it have to be like this the rest of her life? I don't know enough to know. I think she ought to have a chance off conservatorship. I think that's a reasonable thing. Why not? I mean, it is her life after all. But we don't know how serious this is. We really don't. I know it was serious enough to get that.
I know that
courts don't do that.
There's only.
It's California. Think about it. Look at all those people on the streets. Their families couldn't get conservatorships. You know what I mean?
Well,
that's how seriously ill you have to be.
Or you have to be super famous.
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The courts it's not like there's a book of famous people laws.
But but I think they had strong, powerful attorneys, and I also feel like the judge didn't have to be proven that much because he too was watching the craziness on TV.
It's really what the psychiatrist says, and the psychiatrist has to present the data, and the data is the data.
And then, then after 13 years of being on
I'd like to see her off. I think she's God bless him for what he's done so far. She has survived and thrived and worked, and it's all great. Give her a little chance, okay? I mean, it's risky. It's risky. She could die. Could happen. But okay, I'm sure she wants to take that risk.
But I'm just saying, like, she can't even like leave the country or go on a trip. Like, if she and Sam wanted to go to Greece, her boyfriend, like, she can't do that.
Yeah,
imagine being like one of the richest divas in the world, and like you can't just book a trip and go on a trip.
You're right.
When you want to go on a trip.
I get it. I am highly sympathetic, but we don't know the details, to be fair. But yes, I don't disagree with you.
Yeah. And then he said in his court, the father, she has dementia. Now I don't believe that's true because let me ask you, isn't dementia? Doesn't that move almost quicker than Alzheimer's? Like, wouldn't you be like completely gone within years?
No, dementia is a category, a giant category of illnesses, of which Alzheimer is one.
Oh, okay.
Now, what I'm suspicious of, if indeed she has a diagnosis of dementia at such a young age, she must have had a stroke. And the stroke must be caused, or multiple strokes, and that maybe is what's causing dementia. That can also cause an unstable bipolar disorder. So we don't know, right?
Or he's just saying that.
That's a measurable thing. I mean, that's a yes or no thing. You do a dementia test, and they either pass it or they don't. Remember the dementia test that President Trump took? That's a pretty good screen for dementia. Well, right now
she's never said, "I don't want to have this conservatorship." She's saying, "I don't want my dad to be the one in charge anymore."
I know. I
would say if you were the dad, why wouldn't you just say, "Okay"? Pick your sister, which I think she wanted to involve her sister. Then pick somebody else.
Heather, I agree.
Like,
I don't disagree.
That's weird that you would want to hang on to it. That to me is suspicious.
No, he said. I heard him say he wants to let it go. It just has to be the right person.
Oh, okay.
I've heard him say stuff like that. So, but it's all weird. We don't have all the data. I'm highly on your assessment is good.
What do you think of? I want to ask you this.
What happened to Chris?
I've talked about it too much. People are sick of me talking about. All these tweets from way back when came out. The worst one being that she was bullying Courtney Stodden.
Oh, that's
when
the one
she was out in the news,
with,
and
right?
you did a show with.
Okay.
And let's talk about that because someone said, please ask Dr. Drew about when he did an X-ray of her breast to prove that they're real. What is the story behind that?
So I did a daytime talk show. We would do at least 2 shows a day. It was called Life Changers. They would talk to me about the segments, but you know, you ever done a talk show?
Well, of course. Have I ever done it?
But I mean, you ever been in one where you're doing 2 a day and hosting, and the
producers? But never alone.
Yeah, the producers determine what the stories are, and you walk in and they go, "Here's your story," and you try to make it I try to make it like okay and good. Yeah. Well, this day they were going to go in and talk about Doug and Courtney, and the show was
Courtney Stodden. That she was the teenager who was married to the 51-year-old D-list actor.
Right, and I don't remember how old she was at the time. I probably wasn't even told. I don't remember. Maybe that was.
Well, that was the thing is that she was 16 when she married him, but she looked like she was 35.
And she may have been 18 by the time this show happened. I doubt she was 16, but her mother was there with her. I remember this vividly. This was the thing that blew my mind. I talked to the mother ahead of time, and I was like, "Are you okay with this? Is this fine?" "Oh, it's great. We love Doug. Blah blah blah." She was complete. And if you notice Courtney's interviews now, which are really kind of interesting, she talks about how not only was she groomed, but the mother was groomed also.
Yeah, I did a long interview with her about a year ago, and which we just talked everything about. At that time, she was doing really well.
Good.
This is, and I've reached out since, and I just said, now with all this extra press you're getting, and then she came out as non-binary, so now she goes by the, there, and them. And at the time that I was talking to her, she had a boyfriend.
Yeah. She still might, right? Just because gender switching doesn't mean sexuality shifting.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, but she's got she had a boyfriend that seemed really nice. And I follow her on Instagram, and her Instagram is still very sexy model pose type stuff.
Well, isn't it interesting that we used to characterize women that excessively glamorize themselves, particularly accentuating their female characteristics. One way to think about them is female cross-dressers. So rather than a male female cross-dresser, it's a female cross-dresser, a female making herself Jessica Rabbit.
Oh.
You know what I mean? And so isn't that interesting? She may have already been playing with her gender back then. We just didn't think about it that way.
Yeah.
It's kind of an interesting thing. But anyway, so she shows up. We do this thing. My job really was to go at Doug a bit, and it was, no way. He would have none of it. They were in love. It was the greatest thing ever. And by the way, the people that do these kind of grooming things of kids aren't aware they're doing it. They may know on some level they're off base a little bit, but they convince themselves too that what they're doing is completely right, even though it's psychopathic. So it's part of the sickness in all this, right?
Right.
And she was lovely, and she was all delighted. This is my love of my life, and the mom was completely signed off on it. I don't remember. It didn't feel to me like it was the same episode that they got into, are her breasts real or not, or why they got into that, but it became this big controversy. So she and the mom, I don't remember who suggested it or why, did an ultrasound of her breast to prove there were no implants inside.
Oh.
And that was it. There was nobody touched her breast. No one did an examination. These were an ultrasound. An ultrasonographer did a,
You didn't do it.
No.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to clear that up.
No.
Speaking
the fake news. I'm watching fake news being generated every day on my own threads. It's incredible.
Speaking of non-binary, so Demi Lovato just came out as non-binary, and then prior to that, she, had the thing at the yogurt shop that happened. Do you know about that?
No.
She went on a rant, an Instagram rant, because she went into a yogurt place and there was non-fat yogurt, and it triggered her because she had an eating disorder.
Oh.
And it did not go over well. It felt very privileged. This was a yogurt place that survived a pandemic, that was female-owned, that had been around forever. And they've always had non-fat yogurt. They've always had guilt-free cookies and things, all those things. And then she also just said, it can be triggering if you compliment someone, saying they look fit.
So Demi triggers all my codependency stuff, right?
Demi triggers you.
Codependently.
Okay.
She activates. It triggers a bad word. She activates all my codependency. I want to take care of her and make her better, and I have these very distinct. It's sort of an illness I have, which is I want to rescue and save people and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And she really actualizes that, accentuates it for me, and the fact that she is not sober and has had a near-death experience with her drugs and alcohol is a terrible thing.
But she's California sober.
It's a terrible thing, and it's going to go badly. And this is the first of,
How do you feel about the California sober? Which means
if it worked, that'd be great. I have nothing against. I have nothing against drinking and smoking pot.
Yeah.
Weed. Don't call it pot. That just shows your age.
Okay.
Smoking weed. But when people have a problem, they have a disease state that gets triggered, and that's literally a triggering of a biology.
Yeah.
You just can't do that. And I'm interested in helping people stop and stay stopped who need to stay stopped or want to stay stopped. If people want to drink and use cannabis, fine. But for her, who had a near-death experience already, this is not going to go well. And it makes me really upset. Because I met her a couple times. I met her once and had a really nice exchange with her.
I've met her twice, and she's delightful.
Delightful,
years ago,
lovely,
but
beyond. And that's really her, right?
Right.
And my feeling was, well, whatever she wants to do, she got to figure it out for her own. That's
right.
The one of the dirty little secrets in addiction medicine, just for alcoholism, it takes an average of 4 treatments and 5 years to get 1 year of sobriety. So people are not magically better after a treatment ever, almost ever. It's rare.
Yeah. Okay, what else do I have here? How do you feel about Ben and Jen getting back together? How do you feel about recycling loves? Some people feel like it's a PR move. I don't.
No.
I think he's wearing the watch
Yeah.
that she gave him from 12 years ago, and they were seen working out at a gym in Miami. Does anything sound more JLo-ish
So-
than making out while you're working out with your boyfriend at a gym in Miami?
That sounds like JLo. But here's where this does work for me. Ready?
Yes.
Ready?
It works for me. Go.
Where it works for me is if the reason they broke up in the first place was Ben's drug problem. And if now he's sober and got maybe a year under his belt in the program and is doing well, that's a time to give another shot at something if you really care about that person.
Interesting.
So to me, if Ben has changed and he's active in his program, which might, I don't have any reconnaissance on that, but he looks like he's better to me.
Yeah.
And then I sign off. Why
Right.
not? Why not? If they really had something and the addiction ruptured it, okay.
How do you feel?
I'm not happy that he got in there under A-Rod's, sort of tenure, right? But then again, we don't know what was going on between them at the time. Maybe she was very unhappy.
Here's a fun one for you.
Okay.
So, do you think Jeffrey Epstein killed himself? Because the 2 correctional officers who were accused of falling asleep or failing to keep watch, anyway, they're not going to be prosecuted. They're going to have to do some community service and do some time. I don't know that they really should be prosecuted, but what do you think of all the conspiracy? Do you think they were like paid off and there's some like secret account, or do you think they were just really bad correctional officers?
I have no idea. It's the whole situation, it's too just so.
Yeah.
To imagine it. If they really wanted to get rid of him, I think they would have done something a little more, I don't know, less sort of. It seemed very sloppy to me. The whole thing seemed very sloppy, and it certainly could have been a suicide for sure. And when I watched the Epstein series, on Netflix, he looks more and more desperate and more depressed, and so I could see where that could happen. Because you'd always say you're never going to get me.
How did he have like 12 sheets to tie around? Like, aren't they kind of like cheap about the bedding at the prisons?
I don't know how to answer that. I don't know.
So I was like, maybe they just, maybe
kind of like
maybe or maybe because he had money on his books or whatever, he was able to,
get
get extra materials to then have the means to hang himself. And he knew these correctional officers were lazy and didn't care.
I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. This is gonna go down.
Seeking sister wives, I'm obsessed. The thing I just want to talk about in general.
Okay. All right.
This is now popping up more.
Have you seen the previous sister wife shows? Have you seen how miserable those women are?
The Brown family.
Yeah. Well, no, there was
I'm
other
obsessed
ones.
with it.
There are multiple other ones. There were.
Yes, the Cody Brown. There's 4 women. Yes.
No, but there have been multiple shows like this. Some of them had multiple families.
Right.
And all the women look. Oh, I know which one you're talking about. No, there were ones well before that.
Okay.
They come about the blonde guy who looks like a surfer.
That's what I'm talking about. That's the Brown family.
No. There are many
Okay.
others before that, and every one of the women are miserable. They're miserable, and the man's just trying to keep everybody happy because he digs the situation. The women hate it.
I think so. I'm just totally fascinated by it.
Yeah.
And in the show, I've talked about it a lot, but there's a couple I haven't talked that much about.
Right.
Not a throuple because the girls don't fool around. But it's the guy and 2 wives.
Mm-hmm. Is that
And
one of these?
no, not them. That's a different couple. But and the girls are pushing for a 3rd wife.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of interesting because the girl goes, this way, when he goes off with one of the wives, we won't be the 3rd wheel. We can go out with the 4th wheel, I'll at least have a friend. And watching it, I feel like the women that agree to this are kind of just hungry for friendship as well. They think like, hey, it's hard to find a good guy. Or a lot of single moms, because in the show, like, it's not really religious, like 18,
Yeah.
and so it's like a couple single moms. In this case, this girl had a single mom, and I'm just like, she doesn't have a boyfriend. She's had to do it on her own. She goes to this place. It's a decent house.
Yeah.
2 girls are being nice to her. She's just like, I don't need to be the one and only. I'll bone him one night a week. I don't care. I just need someone to help me raise my kids, and I don't want to be alone. So
Yes.
if this is all that's offered to me, I'm down.
It's always sad when people settle. It's sad, but sometimes it's realistic. And your point is not a bad one, which is that people do. Well, there's two ways that they get there commonly. One is they come from this sort of thing from their own family of origin,
right,
where this is just what they're used to and it seems fine.
Right.
The other way is desperate for family, desperate for love.
Yeah.
Not love in the sense of romantic love, being part of,
something.
Feeling taken care of and part of a family.
Yeah.
And if if that's how you are and you're
and I
cool
think
with
more
it,
people are like, and then there was another throuple I read about, and it was three guys, and they are all three listed as the parents of these children that I think they got through surrogacy, and they are a full-blown throuple.
good for them. All I know is that there are, listen to this. All I know is that there are armies of professionals trying to help two people have relationships. You add a third person to that, it's relationships are so challenging and so difficult. All of our craziness always comes out in relationships. And if you add more people to that, does not make it easier.
I met your son the other day with his very cute girlfriend, and and I said, "Oh, when you met him, because they met on a dating app, had you ever heard of Dr. Drew Pinsky? Is that ever weird that And he said, "Well, I had a different last name on the dating site."
And I did not know that. I didn't even know
she
that
didn't know
whole
who
story.
You were anyway, so wouldn't have mattered. But he did that, and then finally, then told her later, actually, this isn't my real name, and that was more freaked out. Then she was a little freaked out by that.
Yeah,
who the hell am I dating? Like.
My last name is Epstein.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, I didn't know any of that until Heather got a hold of him and just drilled down. I mean, I don't know,
And then I said, "What was college like?" Because he's 28, so.
If you think the only time she gets juicy is in this room, you have another thing coming. She goes juicy in every relationship. So.
So then I asked her, what was college like? Because I always
I also don't know. So go ahead, tell me.
Well, it is fascinating, especially because. A teacher at my school is Ronald Reagan's granddaughter, and her last name is Reagan. And I was like, was that ever interesting? And she goes, well, when I went to Pepperdine, this one professor said, any relation to Reagan? And she said, yes, it's my grandfather. And then he was like, well, he was a horrible president, and said all this stuff to her. And then after that, she just would say, no relation. Great. And so when your kids went to college, which was 10 years, 10 years ago, and you were even the kids definitely knew you. I mean, people know you from Teen Mom and everything, but I'm saying there was love line still and all that stuff. Yeah. And a lot of sexual dating questions that you were,
dealing with.
So I was like, what was that like? And then he said, well, I mentioned it to one professor because he actually brought my dad up in a study he did.
In classroom.
Yeah. And he said, oh, I actually am. That was it. And then there was another thing about triplets. And he said.
The same professor.
Yeah. And he goes, I'm actually a triplet. And he said, oh, that's, there was a study about triplets. And it's just interesting because you said the 3. Yeah. And that 3 is hard in that.
And triplets have all kinds of special dynamics. And the professor was pointing all that stuff out.
Yeah.
And I did hear that story. And he was saying, yeah, pretty much all true.
Yeah.
And one thing stood out for us right at the beginning, which was usually when there are siblings, the younger sibling wants to be like and do the stuff that the older sibling's doing. It's not that way in triplets. Yeah. As soon as one developed a skill, the other two were like, well, that's him. Yeah. That's not me. I'm going to be doing something different.
Right.
Which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. And so with our kids, the boys, they do get along, but Drake is just, it's just such an older brother, little brother dynamic.
I can't wait to see what now is in your stand-up act with them.
Well, Drake is going to ASU in the fall.
Congratulations.
And I just got an offer to do Tempe Improv, which I'm going to take, which is the day of his finals in December. So I'm like, I will be there, and I hope he comes, and I hope it's not weird for him. Now we don't have the same last name, so he doesn't have to share it. Not that kids around ASU are going to be like, here, what Heather McDowell said. But I mean, I was like, I hope he comes. He did come once and saw me.
You used to talk about them and their poopy humor and stuff.
Yeah, and being little, and all that kids. But I did say, sometimes when Brandon gets upset, because he's just teasing him, but in a weird, calm way, but never physically hitting him, just being like a little shit. And I'm just like, you know what, Brandon, what can I say? you were born into an abusive relationship and it's about to end in about 3 months.
Well,
so
listen.
just power through it, and then you might miss them or you might not, whatever. And I was watching this thing on TikTok, and this woman, a mom goes, I'm not like other moms. This kid's been bullying my son for a while, and I just went up to that kid and I said, I'm gonna fuck your dad. And I died laughing because she's talking about her 2 sons. She's saying like, and then all the comments, they didn't get it. They're like, what is she going to the school and screwing someone? They're like, no, they're brothers. It's like one of those like riddles almost,
Yes,
you know,
it's
like,
good.
oh my God, it was
Clever.
so clever. I was like, yeah, exactly. Sometimes the biggest bully is the one like your brother in your house.
You've regaled me with the stories of what your sister used to do to you and call you and all
God.
that stuff. So I understand you had a similar experience.
Yes.
Any
Okay.
more pictures for us to look at?
Yeah, let me see what else. These are the couples. Oh, this one,
know
talk
what
about,
this
this is sad, but interesting.
I don't know.
This guy was, I don't even know.
Eesh. Oh my God.
He died because he got married 2 weeks ago. He was
Yeah.
a famous person. His name's MC Kevin. He's a Brazilian singer. And he married 2 weeks ago, and he was having a threesome with a woman that wasn't his wife. After a show with his friend, and they were both screwing or taking turns. And then he got like a call or a message from security saying, your wife is coming up to the room.
Uh-oh.
And so he jumped off the balcony, hoping to jump in the pool to escape her finding
Hit the
out that he was
cement.
cheating on her, and he hit the cement and died.
Sheesh.
How do you feel about threesomes?
Here's what this is now serious truth.
That's sad.
I'm going
but
to lay
still.
a little truth down.
Yes, please do.
Humans, Mark, listen, which camera's mine? Okay, listen now or regret not having listened. Humans need simple lives. They do. Humans, you need to keep things simple. The more you complicate things, the more unhappy you get, the more dangerous it becomes. We used to say this all the time in my treatment program, this one psychologist and I, who you guys all may have seen on Celebrity Rehab. He did the family groups with me, Dr. Farina, and we just go, people need simple lives. This is too, they can't keep plate spinning. They can't keep the complexity of the relationships and this one and that one. And you just keep it simple. Keep it simple, and you'll be happier.
Well, it's like the classic: get the toxic people out of your life. If someone's
not even
stressing
get
you
everybody out of your
life.
life.
No, but people, if someone is stressing you out, like it's interesting, and I know a lot of people realize that during COVID. I've talked about over and over. People are like, "Wow, I really found who I enjoy."
Yeah.
And I really didn't miss these people.
Right.
And like, no one's. Now that we can see each other again, no one's picking up the phone and like, because I think everybody's kind of like, oh, maybe we weren't so great for each other. Or maybe I don't really need to deal with it.
I'm going to call you more. I don't know about Heather, but I'm going to be calling you Peter. so,
They said, someone asked, what was your favorite Heather Rippett story since we've partied some?
ripping it?
Like when I like to have fun and I party.
My favorite story is us literally tumbling along the beach with Josh Flagg, falling into a giant sea turtle. Didn't hurt the turtle. Everybody was fine. And Peter walking into somebody else's house thinking it was the
Palmilla.
The Palmilla. That's a good Heather story.
Well, that is
and
a
then
good
you
one.
essentially having to be carried back from there.
Yes, exactly.
And Peter was just going, Drew. I just hear this wail in the distance. Like, I hope they're okay because I'm not going back.
I have a story that I was a Dr. Drew this weekend with someone.
Oh.
There's a guy that I kind of know, like a friendly, and I don't know, maybe I'm like an aunt or something. Anyway, I'm not his real aunt, but he DM'd me and he's like, I have a relationship question for you. And I'm bored and I'm like, hit it to me. So he sends it to me. And basically he said, this girl who was I dated her for a long time, she had a threesome with her best friend and the best friend's husband. And he's like, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that he fooled around with girls. Then she revealed to him that now she's divorced, but while she was still married or getting
Hold on,
divorced.
wait a second. So
it's a little tricky.
yeah, so this was his ex-girlfriend.
Okay, and this is it in a nutshell.
All right.
So she had a threesome with
Who's she?
his ex-girlfriend.
His ex-girlfriend. Okay.
Had a threesome with her best friend
Yeah.
and the best friend's husband.
Okay.
Later on.
And she was married at the time?
I think I don't know if she would have been married at the time.
Oh, boy.
Later on, but that doesn't matter. Later on,
Okay, then.
she did start sleeping with a husband
Yes.
behind the
Yes.
best friend's
Happens
back.
all the time. That's a very common outcome of threesomes.
Threesomes, yeah.
Because that's the thing. Again, keep things simple. When you're in situations where you don't know what kind of feelings are going to emerge, they'll come. Things will happen.
He said the unassuming wife
Yeah.
has no idea. They have a child together.
Yeah.
And she's the nicest person in the
call?
world.
Should I call?
Should I tell? So I'm going to tell you my advice,
Yeah.
what I told him, and you tell me what you think of my advice.
Okay.
I said, first of all, thank God this girl's not your girlfriend anymore.
Correct.
This is not who you want to marry, have kids
Right.
with. You got to think about, who do I want to babysit my grandchildren with? That's my new thing. You
Yeah.
know, like really think like who's going to go the long haul? Like, so this isn't it, you
Right.
know?
And you also have to ask, why was I attracted to that?
Oh, not good.
Or why did I stay with
let's
that?
Give me
Okay,
my
go ahead.
advice
Okay,
first,
I'm
and
sorry.
you evaluate at the end.
You're right.
Then I also said, do not go to this girl.
Okay.
Just first of all, get rid of all these people out of your life.
Yes.
You're a cute guy. You can make other friends. Enough. You
Yes.
know. And this girl was dumb enough or insecure enough or funky enough herself to bring her best friend into the bedroom and let her husband either screw her or the two of them fooled around and the husband watched. Whatever. It's funky. It's weird.
Yeah.
And she allowed that to happen.
Yep.
And if you tell her, she's going to call the best friend, the girl's going to go, he's a psycho jealous boyfriend.
Yeah.
He's making it up.
Right.
Just remove yourself and just be glad that you're done with it.
Solid advice.
Thank you.
You're left with a little twinge of, oh, I feel like she needs to know kind of thing. Wouldn't you want to know if you were in that
Right,
position?
that's what he was saying.
And yes, but I'm not sure he needs to be the messenger. I mean, maybe there's somebody else he can tell. Yeah.
I just
the
think-
healthiest thing is just get the fuck out of there.
Just get out of it. It's not his sister. It's not like, he doesn't have a child with anybody. Just like move on.
Yep.
But
This will explode in some way eventually anyway.
But you were saying that does happen a lot where
Yes.
well, it happened with Megan King Edmonds from Real Housewives of OC. Her husband, they're divorcing, and his girlfriend is a girl that they one time had a threesome with.
It's a common thing.
So after you have the threesome, you make sure that everyone's phone number has been deleted
Well,
from
that's
the phone?
why no, if people really want to, they must do that kind of thing, hire somebody.
Yeah.
You know, and make it for sure somebody that's not going to be in your life again. Go to a state where it's legal, hire somebody, and that's that. That's what you got to do.
Wow.
You know, even then, it's unstable. It destabilizes things.
Yeah.
You want to keep things stable in relationships.
Yeah, I'm like, I always feel like that's like a gift. Like girls think that's a gift. Like, oh, for his 40th birthday, I'm going to let another girl go down on me and let him watch.
It is a gift,
Can we just get
but it's
couple massages?
yeah.
Like,
Maybe
isn't
stick
that
with
enough?
that, yeah, or maybe some cologne. So it's just we have convinced ourselves that we are not human beings. We've moved into this ideological fog where I should be able to tolerate that. I should want him to be happy. I shouldn't whatever. We're humans. We have emotions. They are highly unpredictable. They're very nefarious, and you have to treat them carefully. You have to. And if you pretend they don't exist, you will rue the day.
Yeah.
And nothing more delicate than relationships. It's where all of our craziness comes out always.
Yeah. Dr. Drew, you've just been wonderful.
Oh, yay.
You tell everybody, obviously, you can follow Dr. Drew. He has several podcasts. You can listen to a variety of them. Go
to drdrew.com after dark, which I do over here nearby on your mom's house. And people like that pond. And we do a stream most days at drdrew.tv. You can find out all about it at drdrew.com.
You're just a delight. Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you guys. Really. And let's do more.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So, guys, if you like this episode and you want to bring joy to a good friend's life, maybe your best friend, or as Dr. Drew would say, just a friend, please share this episode with them. Send it, subscribe, tell people about it. I really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your week.